Chapter 44, System into Worlds. Every soldier thinks something of the moral aspects of what he is doing, but all war is immoral, and if you let that bother you, you're not a good soldier. Curtis bombs away LeMay. After sunset, Bill said out of nowhere, "Shipfire, let's go." We took Bill's backpack and the record player down to what we called the amphitheater, which was a larger loaf of wind-rippled sand dune that had eddied in a horseshoe of cliff that made the wave sound go conical, swirling the night's song and talk into a purling, hollowed tone of towering black rock, deep blue sky, twinkling white and ruby stars, luminous peppered sand, and sea foam. Bill seemed particularly interested in the mushroom methadrine balance that night. Once he worked that out with the Hubertus on the record player cutting board, he carefully leveled the red and white plastic machine, rechecking the level from different angles like a surveyor. Care that seemed absurd when he put the damaged record on. Many days before, Bill had leaned the record on our Virgin of Guadalupe candle glass. The amber flame in the tall glass took a bite out of blind faith and forever warped it, making it look shaky and feeble with the needle going up and down. By mistake on purpose, Bill edited blind faith to fit his mood, removing "Had to cry today," "Can't find my way home," most of "Well all right," and "Sea of joy." The burn editing didn't really matter because the only song we listened to anyway was his choice, "Do What You Like," and once in a while the flip side, "I have finally found a way to live in the presence of the Lord." The biggest effect was that the vinyl no longer spun on an even plane. Now we'd watch the needle climb and descend, climb and descend. I could never decide if the modulating sound that went up and down that little hill was in my mind or in the warp. Those candles carried the inscrutable soul of the woman we bought them from. In the market, she was dressed in black, against streaked white plaster walls, sitting on the stained black greasy concrete, with her phalanx of virgins arrayed on a black cloth before her. She gave us a very sinister look from under heavy black eyebrows as we tried to bargain her down on a price for 7. Without tits and pubic hair drawn on her, the sad, passive virgin on our glasses seemed cowed by this hard-eyed, reborn virgin grandmother sitting on greasy concrete. And it was one of these sad-eyed virgins that bid away by fire those songs we didn't need to hear. The waves rolled in with the sound of froth circling the amphitheater, mixed with the endlessly repeating, crackling command, "Do what you like, do what you like, do what you like." We lay on the sand, looking up into the falling stars, colliding with the sound of surf spiraling up, making a life force vortex in our brains. Each time the song would finally collapse into chaos, saying "Ding Dong, Billy Bong," Bill would soberly sit up and replace the needle on the absurdly oscillating disc, and the cycle would begin its descent into the labyrinthine memories it excavated. Until, after 1,000 directives to "do what you like," Bill said, "When I showed up at the chicken farm and looked at those weird separate brown teeth Dirty Harry Dietrich had on him, I went out and found this shed in the back field next to a barn. In the South, they would have called it a tobacco stripping shed. I got no idea what it was for, but it had a sheet metal stove, and the roof was watertight, and that's where I holed up. I went at night and stole food from Dirty Harry, and I had a load of acid. But after a while, it felt like another kind of juvenile detention." I was walking on the road one day when Dick caught me and goes, "I was wondering where you were." I made the mistake of telling him, and he started showing up every morning and getting me to work with him. I didn't mind, it was something to do. We built a pole barn. I used the backhoe to put in a water line for the horses. Did other shit too. Dick was a friend of my dad's, so he had me to dinner. He's not such an ass. He's a realist, a good soldier. Somehow we got talking about church and how I hated it, and he gave me a book by this German guy called Beyond Good and Evil. It was a good answer to church. The book was saying that church and society are run by the will to power, leading the herd with their slave morality, and that to be a real man, a superman, you had to forge your own morals, to get out of the herd and find your own will to power. All the good and evil they talk about in church is just to keep you a slave. The devil's evil is just the stuff that suppresses your will to power. He talked about self-overcoming, like overcoming your limitations and weakness, to become who you really are, a superman. I didn't realize the guy was a joke until I told Dick I liked the book, and he goes, "The thing you need to remember about Nietzsche is, he was the son of a preacher. He never had a real job but teaching. He wrote a lot of books, but nobody read them when he was alive. He never had a girlfriend, but went mad with syphilis, and went to the nut house, and spent the last 12 years of his life raving, being nursed by his mother, while his sister rewrote his books, so people like the Nazis would end up liking them. So I said, then why did you give me the fucking book in the first place?" And he just laughed. I'd thought the German was a soldier or something. But you know, that idea of self-overcoming is in a funny way the same, and yet opposite, to your supreme doctrines thing, about overcoming the ego with no mind. Everyone will attain Superman's no mind when they die. Death is Satori for the Superman. All the while, he set and reset the needle down on do what you like. But no mind, that's a dead-end road for you. Everyone I ever knew was in an argument with themselves, in two minds, no one as bad as that German guy. One half of the brain in negotiations with the other half. Everyone but the mouse is of two minds. I turned away from the Star Show to Bill and said, in the Supreme Doctrines, he'd call that dualism. I'd call it two minds, and the fucking dickless Superman Nietzsche, with his will to power, goes crazy from syphilis because he had to pay whores to allow him to exercise his will to power on him. Everybody is a fraud. What's your fucking dualism but a will to power? Slave and master, cow and herd, fish and school, you and it. It's all in how you want to split your head up, and it's all just a scam. Society is void. What you fear, that's the bottom line. Fear, that's the whole system. And people fear two things in their low-down condition: what other people think of them, and death. That's what makes them weak. Me, I don't fear what people think, or death either. So I am Superman. Ha!